Hey there, people. Welcome to my corner of the internet. Today, we're going to be talking about the movie, film, comic, whatever you want to call it, the topic of 300. 300 is based on real events through histories told by Greek philosophers, Roman historians. It's told in many different ways, but I feel this is one of the most true, in a sense, where it takes into account all the outside forces, the inside dramas, the inside politics of the situation that 300 surrounds, and it puts it in a more distant, not necessarily distant, but more figurative light. So, as stated before, I'm going to be covering 300, but I'm going to be covering a couple of things. So, for example, the story of 300, or more of the general history of it, the theme, conflict, translation, and its characterization. So, to begin, the history that goes into this film ties in with its theme, with the setting being between the tensions of the quickly falling Greek Empire and the Persian army of nowadays Iran, where their king Xerxes is wanting to put forth a conquest of all of Greece. However, they have to go through the one moment here. They have to go through the Thermopylae passage inside of the Greek peninsula because the waters surrounding Greece are flooded with all of Athens's best naval fleet, giving it superior water advantage, which the Persian army would never be able to go up against. So they decided to go on land through this Thermopylae passage. Now, there is a city called Sparta on the other end of that, where the beginning of the movie takes place and where it ultimately ends at. Sparta, known for its warriors, sends 300 of its finest men, along with their king Leonidas I, to go and defend the passage to keep the Persians from coming to to keep them coming to Greece. Now, the drama on the inside, the queen of Sparta, Gorgo, is manipulated in various ways to get her power diminished, get her say in the Council of Sparta diminished, and ultimately proves her faith when a messenger from the 300 men comes back to tell the tale of how they fought. The second part I want to cover is the main conflict, which also ties back into history. This is around the time where Greece was on its last legs and was willing to do anything to keep its head off of the ground. So they ultimately requested Sparta after this event to take the initiative to send the Spartan army to fend off the Persians. Obviously, history says that didn't last too long. But for this movie's conflict, it ultimately revolves around the army of Persia in trying to take Greece, and Spartans not wanting that to happen ultimately use themselves as a literal barrier to keep them from entering the peninsula. And that conflict also drives back to Sparta itself, where, as stated before, Gorgo, the queen, is pleading with the Council of Sparta to allow the army to go aid their king, but they're ultimately dismayed by a traitor among them, who later found out was bribed via the Persians themselves. So the conflict really is picking a side, seeing who is willing to stand with Sparta and Greece as a whole, or who is willing to defect to Persia in the promise of money, women, and power. In terms of translation, it's pretty one to one. The same director of 300, one moment here, the same director of 300 also wrote the book a couple of years prior, and it ultimately lines up one to one due to the fact that um, the that the main story was very similar due to the fact that it was written and directed by the same person. One moment here, I'll tell you who that is. That'd be Frank Miller. So Frank Miller wrote the comic originally based off of Greek history and then ultimately was able to translate it into his 2006 film based after the 98 comic. Now, the next part I want to go into is the characterization. The characterization was very vital for this movie due to the fact that we don't exactly know what the King of Sparta was like. Not many people in Sparta wrote or was even capable of reading. So, this is based off of Persian scribes and Greek philosophers and scholars trying to piece together what it may have been like. So the movie does very good justice at showing how loyal King Leonidas was to his people, to his queen, and to overall maybe not Greece as a whole and specific to Athens, but was willing to defend his land and his kingdom down to his final breath. And that ultimately just makes for better storytelling. Yes, it's a movie, so there's going to be some moments in there that aren't necessarily accurate to history or necessarily going to say, hey, this is what happened due to it needing material in order to get their entire length running. However, the way they did it, I feel, was just enough to push the boundaries of saying, okay, this is a movie, but it ultimately puts humility and it puts people into the shoes that they're wearing. There could be arguments for a couple of moments where it's like, oh, that's not human. How could they do that? But that was also just the way of life. That also shows that they're staying true to the times. They're not bringing in real world aspects or out of time aspects into the movie that really don't belong there. So overall, 300 is more about the history than is the comic. However, through some digging, the comic is actually based off of Greek history and obviously the Battle of Thermopylae that occurred around 550 BC. Numbers are a bit approximate due to translation error and overall just trying to keep the memo of the story true. But overall, I really thought this was a good movie, a really good comic actually, even though it's only 46 pages long. But I highly recommend giving this movie a try and giving it a watch. Thank you for stopping by my part of the internet. If you have any questions, comment section. Love it. It tells me exactly what you guys think. And then if you did just so happen to someone in my neck of the woods, hey, welcome. I'm going to be posting on another channel here soon, so I'll keep y'all posted. Thanks for listening.